August 15, 1947. Exactly 12 o'clock at night, Calcutta. While the entire nation was celebrating independence, while Jawaharlal Nehru was hoisting the tricolour from the ramparts of the Red Fort in Delhi, a different kind of fire was burning in the lanes of Bengal. The fire of partition. The fire of blood. A fire that does not merely burn homes, it burns the faith within a person, his roots, his identity, reducing them to ash. Millions of Hindus were fleeing from East Bengal toward West Bengal. They had no home, no land, no future. There was only one question: where do we go now? And in that crowd, in that pain, in that helplessness, a seed fell. A seed of an idea. A seed of political resolve, which would receive water over the next 7 decades. Storms would come, and one day, that seed would become a towering tree, whose roots sank so deep into Bengal soil that uprooting them would not be easy for anyone. This is the story of that seed.
Welcome to yet another new episode of our channel's The Real Talks series. But before we begin the story, a small request. If you enjoy such factual videos, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and do tell us in the comments what you think about such analyses. Watch this entire episode in detail and the whole matter will become clear to you. So let us now begin today's episode. Ashok Hall, Calcutta, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. A man stood on the stage, age past 50. Deep lines on his forehead, a gleam in his eyes that told anyone this man is not tired. This man was born to fight. His name was Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, the leader who had resigned from Nehru's government, the leader who had said that one country cannot have 2 symbols, 2 leaders and 2 constitutions. That very year, he founded the Bharatiya Janasangh, the organization that would go on to become the Bharatiya Janata Party.
Bengal was his own soil. The memories of his ancestors were buried in this land, and that is why he made Bengal his first political laboratory. But fate had something else in store. In 1953, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee died in a Kashmir jail under mysterious circumstances. And with him, that first spark of Hindu nationalist politics in Bengal was also extinguished, at least for a few decades. Bengal began to be painted red. Calcutta, the night of election results. The left front in West Bengal seized power. Jyoti Basu became chief minister. And then began a reign that lasted a full 34 years. 34 years. This was not merely a government. It was a system. A system in which party offices were the government offices, where without a red flag, there was no job, no land, no justice.
The local CPM leaders, who were called Party Dada, they were the real rulers. When their finger rose, a house was built. When their finger fell, a house was demolished. During this era, the Bharatiya Janata Party, which was formed from the Janasangh in 1980, was virtually non-existent in Bengal. Their candidates would contest elections, their deposits would be forfeited, and they would go back. For the people of Bengal, the BJP was a foreign party, a party of North India, with no connection to the soil of Bengal. But every invincible fort has one door, and that door was opened by a woman. A narrow lane in Calcutta, 6 o'clock in the evening. Mamata Banerjee was a Congress leader at that time, but a different kind of fire was burning within her. Left-wing goons had beaten her supporters, burned her offices, and she herself had faced physical attacks on multiple occasions. But she did not bow. She did not break. She simply did not know how to bow. Gradually, she began building a distinct political identity. In 1998, she founded the Trinamool Congress. And the strange thing was that in the beginning, the BJP and Trinamool Congress both were allies of each other. Both had a common enemy, the left front. Mamata Banerjee also served as a minister in Atal Bihari Vajpayee's government. But this alliance was not durable. two ambitions cannot live under one roof for very long, and soon their paths diverged.
West Bengal Legislative Assembly election. 34 years of left-wing rule was demolished. Mamata Banerjee became Chief Minister of West Bengal. The entire country called it a historic moment. People thought, now change will come. But in Bengal's politics, power changes. Methods do not. The red color faded. White and blue took over. The party Dadas changed, but the Dadagiri did not change. Trinamool Congress workers adopted the same path that the CPM had once taken. Cut money, syndicate raj, and political violence. This had become Bengal's fate. And in this very atmosphere, a new storm was beginning to rise from Delhi. Narendra Modi. When Narendra Modi registered a historic victory in the 2014 Lok Sabha elections, the map of the entire country changed. But Bengal was an exception on that map. The BJP got only 2 seats in Bengal. 2. A massive state with 42 Lok Sabha seats, and from there, only 2 members of parliament. This figure could have disheartened anyone. But Amit Shah was not the kind of man to be disheartened. He was the kind of strategist who reads even defeat like data and finds the path to victory within it. Amit Shah studied the vote percentage of those 2 seats in Bengal. He saw which areas gave the BJP more votes, which communities stood with them, and where the ground was ready. And then he made a big decision. Bengal would be the next mission. Delhi, BJP headquarters, 9 o'clock at night.
The map of West Bengal was spread out on Amit Shah's table. Colorful markings were made on that map. Green markings, where the Muslim population was greater, saffron markings, where Hindu voters were in majority, and red circles, where political violence had been most frequent. Amit Shah would study that map for hours. His associates say that he had memorized the demographics of every single assembly constituency in Bengal. How many votes at which booth, which community lives in which village, how far which leader's grip extends. All of this lived in his mind like a living map. And on the basis of this very map, he devised a strategy which political analysts still call the most meticulously planned infiltration in Indian electoral history. The first task was to descend to the ground. The BJP began building organization at the booth level in every assembly constituency of Bengal. The Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, which had been quietly working in Bengal for decades, was activated. RSS workers went to those villages where no one even knew the name of BJP. They lived there, ate food there, listened to the sorrows and sufferings of people there. This was not electoral politics, it was a cultural and social campaign. And the biggest weapon of this campaign was the Matua community.
Matua. This name is the key to understanding Bengal's politics. The Matua Mahasangh, a vast Hindu religious and social movement with crores of followers spread across North and South Bengal. These were the people who had been uprooted from East Pakistan after partition. Those for whom the question of Indian citizenship had been hanging in limbo for decades. Those whom every government used as a vote bank, but never gave citizenship. The BJP gave them one promise, the Citizenship Amendment Act, that is, the CAA. This promise sank into the hearts of the Matua community, because this was not merely the promise of a law, it was the honoring of their identity, their existence, the sacrifice of their ancestors. And the BJP began converting this sentiment into political strength with great cunning. The second big gamble was Hindu consolidation.
Hindu society in Bengal had never been united. The walls of caste, class, and language had always divided them. But the BJP erected a new narrative. They said Hindus are unsafe in Bengal. And this was not untrue. The declining Hindu population in border districts, attacks on temples, stone pelting on Durga Puja processions, these incidents were real. The BJP wove them into a larger political narrative. And before long, those Hindu voters who once voted for the leftists, who were once with Trinamool, they began shifting toward the BJP. But the path was not easy. West Bengal Legislative Assembly election. The BJP threw in its full strength. Narendra Modi held rally after rally. But the results were disappointing. The BJP got only 3 seats. 3. Mamata Banerjee recaptured power with a massive majority. Trinamool Congress workers celebrated. And some people said, Bengal is close to the BJP. The soil of Bengal will never accept this party. But Amit Shah did not accept defeat. He had once said, losing an election is not losing the battle. And this was not merely words. It was his belief, his working method. And with this very belief, he spent the next 3 years sinking deeper roots in Bengal.
Lok Sabha elections. And then, everything changed. When the results of the 2019 Lok Sabha elections came, the entire country was stunned, and Bengal seemed to tremble. The BJP won 18 out of 42 seats in Bengal. 18 seats. This was no ordinary achievement. It was an earthquake. The pressure that had been building beneath the earth for decades had burst out in one jolt. The BJP's vote percentage reached 40.2. Trinamool got 22 seats, but a fear had taken residence in their hearts. That fear which robs you of sleep. That fear which tells you, next time, the 2021 assembly election will be a battle for survival. And that fear made Mamata Banerjee aggressive. Within just a few hours of the election results, blood began to flow on Bengal streets. BJP workers were attacked. Their homes were burned. Families had to flee their villages. The national media reported, political violence in Bengal is at its peak. The BJP held press conferences in Delhi. Central investigation agencies sent reports. But the Bengal government denied everything. Mamata Banerjee said, this is the BJP's political theatrics. The center is interfering in Bengal's internal affairs. And in the meantime, another game was underway within Trinamool.
Kolkata, inside a closed room. Shuvendu Adhikari was restless. He was one of the most powerful leaders of the Trinamool Congress. Midnapur was his land, and his grip there was so strong that not even a leaf stirred without him. But a new politics had begun within Trinamool. Mamata Banerjee's nephew, Abhishek Banerjee, was rising swiftly within the party. Senior leaders were being sidelined. Shuvendu felt his ground was being taken away, his respect was being taken away, and his political future was in danger. In Delhi, Amit Shah's eyes were on this crack. To break any fort, one must not attack from outside, but from within. And Shuvendu Adhikari was that inner door, which the BJP knocked upon with great cleverness. Months of secret talks followed. Terms were decided. And in December 2020, that moment came which changed Bengal's politics forever. Shuvendu Adhikari left the Trinamool Congress and joined the BJP.
This was not merely one leader changing parties. It was a landslide. Along with Shuvendu, dozens of MLAs, hundreds of local leaders, and millions of supporters began breaking away from Trinamool and moving toward the BJP. A large crack had appeared in Mamata Banerjee's fort, and the BJP had planted its foot in that crack. West Bengal Legislative Assembly election, February. This election was not merely an election, it was a great war. On one side, Mamata Banerjee, Bengal's Didi, fighting to protect her soil, her culture, her power. On the other side, Narendra Modi and Amit Shah, who had declared Bengal their biggest political objective. Amit Shah himself set up camp in Bengal. He undertook marches covering hundreds of kilometers, went village to village, sat at tea stalls, met fishermen, met farmers, met those whose homes had been burned, whose sons had been killed, who had been made refugees on their own land. And Narendra Modi?
Narendra Modi held more than 20 rallies in that election. Millions at every rally. In every speech, the names of Bengal's culture, Rabindranath Tagore, Swami Vivekananda, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, were invoked. The BJP gave one message. We are not outsiders to Bengal. Bengal's great tradition belongs to us too. And that message touched those middle-class voters of Bengal who were tired of Trinamool, but still considered the BJP an outsider. But the battle was not that easy. March 2021, Nandigram, 11 a.m. in the morning. Nandigram. This name holds a special place in Bengal's politics. This was the very land where in 2007, Mamata Banerjee had launched her biggest movement against the left-wing government. It was on this soil that blood had been spilled. It was here that farmers' bodies had fallen. And it was from here that Mamata Banerjee's political journey had begun. The journey that took her to the Chief Minister's chair. And now, a cruel irony of fate. Mamata Banerjee's confrontation from that very Nandigram was with Subhendu Adhikari. That Subhendu who was once her most trusted commander, who had fought the battle of that very Nandigram by her side. And now, that same Subhendu stood before her as the BJP's candidate.
Mamata Banerjee decided to contest the election herself from Nandigram. This decision was not a symbol of her strength, but of her ego. Or perhaps of her courage, because Nandigram was no longer easy ground. Subhendu Adhikari had worked there for years. His roots were deep in that soil, and Mamata had to defeat him in that very soil. But before the election, an event occurred that caught the attention of the entire country. During election campaigning, Mamata Banerjee had gone to Nandigram to meet her supporters. Suddenly, there was a push and shove in the crowd. Mamata Banerjee fell. She suffered a deep injury to her leg. A bone broke. She was taken to hospital. And then what happened was no less than a scene from a film. Mamata Banerjee set out to campaign in a wheelchair, with a broken leg, with a bandaged foot. And the political message that wheelchair conveyed was more powerful than any speech. The people of Bengal saw her, and something awakened within them. Like a mother, like a warrior, like a woman who does not bow even when broken.
Mamata Banerjee's wheelchair image became the biggest visual of the election. BJP leaders said, "This is theater," but the public did not take it as theater. And in the meantime, another problem was surfacing within the BJP. In the 2021 Bengal election, the BJP adopted a strategy that backfired. The party gave tickets in large numbers to leaders who had come from Trinamool. This was understandable, because these people were local, they had a voter base. But the BJP's old workers, who had worked for the party for years, who had been beaten, whose homes had been burned, they did not get tickets. And the bitterness in their hearts reached the ballot boxes. In many areas, the BJP's old workers either did not vote or backstabbed. But the real force that swung in Mamata's favor was the Muslim voter. The Muslim population in Bengal is approximately 30%, and in the 2021 election, this entire population stood almost united with Trinamool. The fear of CAA, the fear of NRC, these issues had united the Muslim community against the BJP. And when 30% of votes go to a single party, it becomes very difficult to break that.
The election was held in 8 phases. In every phase, reports of violence came in. The Election Commission deployed heavy central forces in Bengal. But outside the booths, in the lanes, in the fields, there was an atmosphere of fear. BJP workers were receiving threats. In many areas, voters were afraid to step out of their homes. Trinamool Congress workers hovered near the booths. This was the same Bengal, where politics and violence have been each other's shadows for decades. And then came that day, May 2, 2021, counting day. From the morning, trends began coming in, and as the trends came in, the nation held its breath. Trinamool Congress was ahead by a big margin, and the BJP, which had been claiming to win more than 200 seats, was shrinking. In the final results, Trinamool Congress got 213 seats, and the BJP got 77 seats. Mamata Banerjee became chief minister for the 3rd time. But there was a bitterness too.
Mamata Banerjee herself lost from Nandigram. Subhendu Adhikari defeated her by a margin of merely 1,952 votes. The margin was so slim that Mamata Banerjee knocked on the door of the courts. But the result did not change. That seat remained Subhendu's. And a few hours after the results were declared, blood flowed again on Bengal's streets. Under the cover of victory celebrations, Trinamool Congress workers burned BJP offices, broke workers' homes. Reports came of misconduct with women.
The National Human Rights Commission intervened. The Supreme Court took cognizance. The Calcutta High Court ordered an inquiry. Cases were handed over to the CBI. And once again, Bengal's politics was churning in the same cycle it had been churning in for decades. But had the BJP really lost? This question is not as simple as it appears.
77 seats. This number seems small, but put it in perspective. In 2016, the BJP had 3 seats. In 2021, 77. This was a growth of more than 600%. The BJP's vote percentage reached nearly 38%, which was an extraordinary achievement for any opposition party. In those districts of Bengal where the BJP once had no existence, there were now BJP MLAs. Purulia, Bankura, Chargram, Midnapore, these had become the BJP's new strongholds. And Suwendu Adhikari, who had defeated Mamta Banerjee on her own ground, became the biggest face of the BJP in Bengal, leader of the opposition in the assembly, a face that knew how the Trinamool Congress works because he himself had been a part of that very machine.
Lok Sabha elections. The Battle of Bengal was not yet over. In the 2024 Lok Sabha elections, the BJP won 12 seats in Bengal. Trinamool won 29. The BJP seats fell from 18 in 2019 to 12. But in terms of vote percentage, it was still strong. Bengal's political ground had now split into 2 poles. On one side, Mamata, and on the other side, the BJP. The Congress and the leftists, who were once the rulers here, they had now shrunk into the pages of history. And on this very divided ground, preparations for the next election have already begun. West Bengal Legislative Assembly election. This election, which is about to come, will be the final examination for the BJP. The examination in which either decades of hard work will bear fruit, or it will be proven that Bengal's soil is forever closed to the BJP. Amit Shah is again on a Bengal tour. RSS workers are again going village to village. Suvendu Adhikari is touring assembly constituencies. And Mamata Banerjee? She too is ready. She knows that this battle will be the biggest battle of her political life. Bengal knows. A storm is coming.
This story is not merely of the rise of one party. This is the story of that Bengal, which lives 2 Indias within itself simultaneously. One India that lives in the poetry of Rabindranath Tagore, dances to the beat of the dak drum of Durga Puja, and weeps while singing Amar Shonar Bangla. And another India that lives in the hunger for power, in the equations of caste, in the politics of religion, and in the age-old culture of violence. The BJP's battle in Bengal is not merely for power. It is a battle for that idea which Shyama Prasad Mukherjee had sown in 1951. For that idea which lay buried under the earth for decades, which people had assumed to be dead, but which today, slowly, painfully, amidst blood and tears, is sprouting. This battle of Bengal is not over. It has only just begun. And history bears witness, whenever Bengal has turned over in its sleep, the entire nation has trembled. Today's episode ends here. We will meet again next week with a new episode of a new story. With this farewell, thank you for today. Stay alert, stay safe, and always take care of yourself.